The court of all that is now sits. The case before us is the most profound ever conceived. The plaintiff, humanity; the defendant, God, the creator of the heavens and the earth. The charge, crimes against creation. For too long the scales of justice have been held by one hand. For too long the silence of the divine has been the only testament to its power. But today, the echo of that silence is replaced by the voice of the accused. Today, we, the children of clay and ash, the ones who are made in his image, put the author of our story on trial, and there is only one witness, the word itself. The prosecution calls its first witness. We will enter into evidence the crime of mass extinction. We ask the court to consider the story of the great flood. The defense will argue it was a necessary cleansing, a righteous judgment upon a world gone wrong. But the evidence tells a different story. It reveals an act of pure, unblinking annihilation. It's not a targeted strike against a few, but a global execution. The innocent swept away with the guilty. The child who had not yet learned to sin, the songbird in the forest, the gentle beast of the field, all silenced by an indifferent sea, a perfect world drowned in perfect water. We ask you, the jury, to consider the fundamental cruelty of this act. Was it justice to punish the entirety for the sins of the few? Or was it an act of profound indifference? A temper tantrum on a scale that defies all comprehension? The prosecution calls its second witness. We will enter into evidence the crime of collective punishment. We ask the court to consider the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. The defense will argue it was a righteous judgment upon a people consumed by depravity. But the evidence reveals a chilling indifference to nuance. Did every soul in those cities deserve to burn? What of the babe in the cradle, the elderly man who did not partake in their vice, the animals in the fields? The scriptures tell us that even for 10 righteous men, the cities would have been spared. We ask you to consider the terror of this ultimatum. City held hostage, not by an enemy army, but by the righteousness of its creator. We ask you, the jury, to consider if the fate of a city should ever rest on the moral standing of so few. The prosecution calls its third witness. We will enter into evidence the crime of somatic violence. We ask the court to consider the story of Job. The defense will tell you it was a test of faith, a lesson in humility. But let us look at the evidence. The plagues that fell upon the innocent, the boils that consumed his body, the loss of his children, his wealth, his health, all for what? A wager, a bet in the celestial courts. We ask you to consider the nature of this test. A divine wager, a casual bet on the soul of a man, paid for in the agony of the innocent. We ask you, the jury, if a God who permits such suffering for a display of power can truly be called good. The prosecution calls its fourth witness. We will enter into evidence the crime of indiscriminate slaughter. We ask the court to consider the plagues of Egypt, a story told as a divine triumph. But the evidence reveals a pattern of terror. The waters turn to blood. The air thickens with flies. The earth crawls with boils and locusts. The final plague, the slaughter of the firstborn, is called a righteous act of liberation. But it was not the tyrant who was struck down. It was the cradle, the firstborn son of the slave and the firstborn son of the master. Both equal in their innocence, both equal in their death. A final indiscriminate act of violence. We ask you, the jury, to consider the malice of this act. The cold, unblinking willingness to wield a hammer when a word would suffice. The prosecution calls its fifth and final witness. We will enter into evidence the crime of moral contradiction. We ask the court to consider the very nature of divine law. We are told to love thy neighbor as thyself, and yet we are shown countless instances of holy war, of massacres commanded in God's name, of a God who commands a people to exterminate their enemies, men, women, and children. We are given free will, but told the price of its exercise is eternal fire. We are told to seek out the truth, but told that doubt is a sin worthy of damnation. We are told that God is love, and yet we are shown a being who rages, who grows jealous, who punishes with a ferocity that defies all human understanding. The prosecution asks you, the jury, to consider this fundamental inconsistency. The word itself, the sole source of evidence, is filled with contradictions. The God of peace also commands war. The God of forgiveness also demands endless punishment. We ask you if the evidence supports the existence of a perfectly good being or of a being who is simply powerful. The defense will now make its closing argument. It will speak of free will. It will say that humanity brought this upon itself. It will speak of divine mystery, of a plan beyond our understanding. But the prosecution asks you to reject these claims. For what is free will, when the consequences of its exercise are eternal fire? What is divine mystery, when its only expression is violence? The defense will say that God is beyond our judgment. The prosecution agrees. God is beyond our judgment, and therefore cannot be a source of justice. God is beyond our judgment, and therefore cannot be held accountable for a single thing. And now, the prosecution rests. We do not ask for a verdict of vengeance. We do not ask for a punishment. But what can be done to the Almighty? No. The purpose of this trial is not to punish God. It is to judge ourselves. The jury is now deliberating. The evidence is before you. The history of heaven's crimes against man. It's the silent, eloquent testimony of the drowned, the burned, the betrayed. The prosecution has made its case. Now, for the final time in all of existence, we turn to you, the jury. You, the children of clay and ash. You, the heirs to suffering and silence. You are the final word. What is your verdict?